TFA fam, what is up? What is happening? Another exciting day of football in the books.
I'm
Still a
Ron
little rough out
Burgundy.
there, but yeah. But overall, but we did our annual drama apparently of Cam Akers happened today, where apparently now they're looking to
God.
trade him again. So and it comes out of nowhere. Like it's not like, oh, he's been having these issues, all this stuff comes. Like we hear nothing about it before the season starts. You know? Super frustrating. Anyways, we'll not even worth talking about. So, anyways, except for the people that drafted him. But let's go ahead and jump right into this. Honestly, there's not a ton to talk about in terms of the quarterback streaming options this week. To be honest with you, in terms of guys, there's not a lot of great matchups this week that just stand out. But I did want to mention Matthew Stafford, who is still only rostered in 35% of leagues, but he's now thrown for over 300 yards in back-to-back games. However, he's only managed to throw one passing touchdown, and I think that's a number that is due for some positive regression. And the Rams' passing offense has been pretty impressive, even without Cooper Kupp. I mean, the legend of Puka Nakau,
Continues to
Puka
grow.
Nakua continues to grow with a 20 target, 15 reception game today. Just absolutely wild what he is doing right now. But yes, I think
Yeah.
Matthew Stafford on Monday Night Football against Cincinnati, I think is something you could look to do. And then the other one is still Jordan Love. He's still rostered in under 60% of leagues. He had another solid performance today. I mean, it wasn't his best performance. It wasn't as good as last week, but he still threw for another 3 passing touchdowns, which is what's really been helping him along. And I think those are the kind of the two options. Maybe Mac Jones, but again, we're not dealing with buys or anything like that, and we really have only had the Aaron Rodgers injury to really talk about. I know Anthony Richardson got banged up today with a concussion, but I think those are really the only two main ones to stand out. So there's not a ton of streaming options in my mind for next week, unless you're just really getting desperate.
And hopefully that's not the case entering week 3 with your quarterback position. But let's go ahead and move on to the running back waiver wire ads. Obviously, we had a couple of injuries today, most notably to Saquon Barkley. Still unsure of the severity, but from the look of the injury and then Saquon's reaction, it did not look good. But unfortunately for Saquon owners, Matt Breida, I guess, is going to be the guy to pick up. Not super excited. We have seen him flash in spots. If you're in a deeper league, I think you can look at Gary Brightwell. A name I will be monitoring as we continue to go forward is going to be the rookie Eric Gray. He was obviously drafted by this coaching staff, which is something that the other two running backs on the depth chart cannot say. But up until this point, he has only been playing on special teams. So definitely not someone you have to add unless like you're in like a super deep league, like a 16-team league where you have deep starting requirements. Then you can maybe take the preemptive add to Eric Gray. But other than that, Breed is going to be the guy. Gary Brightwell, I think, is going to mix in as well. I don't think this is going to be a Breida 90% opportunity share type of thing. So Brightwell is probably worth a pickup in some deeper leagues. Breida, I think, like I said, gets the nod here. If for some reason, I guess I should have said this at the top, if for some reason Kyron Williams is still available, he needs to be picked up. He was over the 50% threshold that we typically look at whenever we talk about the waivers and the streams on this show. But if for some reason he is out there, he needs to be picked up. Same thing with Justice Hill and Gus Edwards. They were around like 30% ownership on ESPN, but I'm assuming that for most competitive leagues, 12 team leagues and deeper, they're already going to be owned. But for whatever reason, if they are out there, they should be rostered as well. Zach Moss, no other running back saw a snap today. Now, obviously, with the numbers that he put up in the fantasy day that he had, that was definitely aided by the fact that they played Houston. And Kev, like you were mentioning, Anthony Richardson leaving with that concussion, but it's clear that he is the guy. So if he's out there, he needs to be picked up as well. He's going to be much more of a matchup dependent flex play, but he is worth the ad. Roshan Johnson, we had Deonta Foreman as a healthy scratch today, so Roshan Johnson is now entering that handcuff plus range for me. He did see fewer opportunities and snaps than Khalil Herbert. If you look at the box score, you're going to see that Roshan Johnson had 8 yards per carry. Don't be fooled by that. 29 of those yards came on one carry. I think if you were to take that one out, it would have been something like 3 yards and 3 carries. But still, it's a feather in Roshan's cap that Deonta Foreman was a healthy scratch. So I think you can look there. The other injury to talk about is with David Montgomery. I've seen some conflicting things. Pro Football Doc, if you follow him, seems like that they aren't expecting this to be a lengthy injury, but Dave Burkett, one of the beat writers for the Lions, had a tweet that said it could be a multiple week absence for David Montgomery. So pay attention to that piece of information. Craig Reynolds is probably the guy that I would actually want to add here over Matt Breida because of the offense in which he resides. I think he takes over that Montgomery role. We did see Jahmyr Gibbs be more involved today, which was expected. But I don't think that this is going to be, Jahmyr Gibbs in like a 70-30 type split. If David Montgomery is forced to miss time, Craig Reynolds will be involved here. So he's the guy that I would prioritize here. Like I said, unless for some reason Kyron Williams is still sitting out there or one of the Ravens running backs, Reynolds would be the guy, followed by Breida and then Zach Moss for me. And then just some other names here to mention in terms of the handcuff plus and the handcuffs altogether. Jerome Ford is a guy I'd want to be rostering. Jalen Warren as well. Tyjae Spears took a little bit of a step back compared to his week 1 usage, but he's still the clear guy behind Derrick Henry. And then, Ty Chandler, Keontae Ingram, Tank Bigsby, Elijah Mitchell. I was surprised to see that he was as available as he was in ESPN leagues. He should definitely be rostered. Chuba Hubbard there as well. And like I mentioned for the watch list, Eric Gray is on there as well as Sean Tucker. Kind of looked like Rashad White was starting to lose a little bit of playing time today. Chase Edmonds came in for 3 snaps after Rashad White saw 6, I believe. But then Chase Edmonds got picked up a knee injury and he left. So it kind of looks like they were starting to work Rashad White out of the picture. But then obviously he had a pretty solid day today. So that's definitely going to be something to monitor. But Sean Tucker needs to be on the watch list as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I will say if Roshan Johnson is sitting out there, I would make him a priority ad at this point because I think it's only a matter of time till he takes over this job from Khalil Herbert. And I think that he has the type of potential to be at least a high end RB2. Like I think he has that type of upside. He's a tremendous pass catcher as well out of the backfield. He just looks like he has way more juice than what Khalil Herbert does. So if Roshan Johnson is sitting out there, like he would be the guy that I would absolutely prioritize in terms of all of the running backs that probably are sitting out there, unless like a Kyron Williams or something like that is sitting out there. So wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 3, week 3 wide receivers are as follows. Jaden Reed absolutely had himself a pretty decent day today. Still only rostered in 13.4% of leagues, but he caught 4 of 8 targets for 37 yards and 2 touchdowns, 19.7 fantasy points against 19.7 fantasy points against the Falcons today. He has now seen 13 targets through the first 2 weeks. With Christian Watson sideline, Reed is making most of his opportunities. The Packers will get favorable matchups over the next 3 weeks against the Saints, Lions, and Raiders. But I think Jaden Reed is locked in as the slot wide receiver, and he has done a really good job so far over his two first weeks. And this is obviously a rookie wide receiver who was drafted in the 2nd round by the Packers. So I think Jaden Reed is somebody that I definitely want to have. And then Tank Dell, speaking of rookie wide receivers, only 5% roster, but Dell caught 7 of 10 targets for 72 yards and a score for 20.2 PPR points against the Colts. With the Texas defense continuing to show any ability to stop anyone at this point, the pass catchers will continue to see a large target share each week. And I also wanted to mention if Nico Collins happens to be sitting out there, because he's rostered like 62%. We usually make the threshold anything under 60%. But if Nico is sitting out there, I 100% am down for that. He scored 27 PPR points, and he looks to be the best wide receiver in this wide receiver room. And then Marvin Mims, 7%. While his production was pretty fluky today, 2 catches only for 113 yards and a score, he should be rostered in far more leagues due to his role in 3 wide receiver sets and his playmaking ability. I think he should start to see more than the 4 targets he's seen over the first 2 weeks of the season so far. But Marvin Mims, I definitely think should be rostered more than 7%. And then Josh Reynolds, he hauled in 5 of 6 for 66 and 2 scores today for 23 fantasy points against the Seahawks. With so many few other pass catching options, we did have Amon-Ra St. Brown lead briefly, but I think that was mentioned that was cramps. But you really only have him and rookie tight end Sam Laporta. Reynolds will continue to operate on the outside and should see a steady dose of targets He has now seen over almost 14 targets over the first 2 weeks of the season. So Josh Reynolds, I have 4%. I think he should be rostered in way more than that. I think people with like multiple flex options, Josh Reynolds makes for a pretty intriguing type play there, especially once we get closer to bye weeks. And then Tutu Atwell, I was kind of thought maybe this was a fluke, but I guess it wasn't a fluke for Atwell. He saw another 9 targets today, and this week he has now seen 17 through the first 2 weeks of the season. He amassed another 15.2 PPR points this week with Cooper Kupp sidelines. I think Atwell is going to continue to be see a healthy target share of this offense because there's just not a lot of other options to really throw the ball to. And this defense isn't great, but Matt Stafford has done a really good job. I've been really impressed with Matt Stafford, considering the situation that he's in, considering the pass catchers that he has, the fact that he's gotten these guys so well involved. I think it really speaks volumes. But Tutu Atwell, I thought he'd be rostered more than 30%, but I just think PPR formats, if he is going to continue to see this type of workload, it is hard not to like somebody like him. And we have to remember targets are earned, and he has definitely done that over the first 2 weeks. And then lastly, Robert Woods, talked about him last week, talked about him again. He's not a sexy option, but if this Texans offense is going to continue to be playing from behind, they're going to have to continue to throw the ball a ton because he was targeted another 9 times for 6 catches for 74 yards and 13.4 PPR points. I don't think he has a large ceiling, but I do think that he could be somebody that is just kind of a useful PPR option, especially with bye weeks coming, like I said. And then lastly, Tyler Boyd. I thought he would be rostered more in 47% of leagues. The Vegas offense will continue to improve, and as it does, so will the pass catchers. Boyd saw 8 targets today, and he hauled in 6 for 52. He's obviously the third in the pecking order behind Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but he should be in consideration as a flex option on a lot of weeks, especially like I said, once those bye weeks do start coming, because we're only a few weeks away, and then we're going to start ramping up with bye weeks and everything else. So that is another really solid depth option. I'm surprised he is available in as much as he is.
Yeah, apologies if you mentioned this, but it was really confusing for me to not see Marvin Mims out there like on those last couple drives to the Broncos, and then I realized that he ran 5 routes and put up the numbers that he did today, which is just it's frustrating to see that type of usage for someone that we were pretty excited about coming into the year, but fantasy football is a fickle bitch. To move on to the week 3 tight ends, you can look at the stream. I mean, at this point, Sam Laporta he's just someone you should just roster and just ride out the year with. Had another solid day today, another 5 catches. This time, though, he put up 63 yards. I think it was like 35 last week. So he's going to be someone who is going to continue to see involvement and usage in that offense. Outside of that, you can look at someone like Zach Ertz, now has 18 targets through the first 2 weeks, leading the team in that regard. He's not going to offer you, a ton in terms of yards after the catch or anything like that. So he's better suited for full PPR leagues than he is half PPR, just because his touchdown upside is going to be that high. But still, he's going to be useful if you need to stream the position. They get a matchup against Dallas. Obviously they're going to look to be trailing in that one, as they should for the majority of it, unless they are playing the Giants and need a 21-point come from behind loss. But that is beside the point. Zach Ertz could be a useful streamer. Some other guys just here to mention quickly. We have Jawan Johnson coming up, has a matchup against Green Bay. Hayden Hurst has obviously yet to play. They have one of the Monday night games tomorrow, but he looked pretty solid in their opening week. They get a matchup against Seattle. We're just going to continue to look at Seattle whenever we're looking at tight end streaming options. That's who Laporta had today, put up a decent day. That's who Higbee had in week 1, also had a decent day as well. Luke Musgrave gets the Saints in week 3. He continues to run the most routes for this team by far, but the target share just hasn't been there yet. But it feels like a big game is coming on the horizon. And then the last name to throw out here really quickly is Hunter Henry. Mac Jones actually looks pretty decent now that they actually have a legitimate offensive coordinator there instead of a defensive coordinator running the offense like they did last year. So he's someone you can look at. Just kind of sucks for him that he's splitting time with Mike Gesicki. But if you're desperate, Hunter Henry does seem to be a solid option. Slayer is saying Christian Kirk is on the waiver wire. Would you add him over all these wide receivers? You definitely can, but the thing to watch with Kirk is he is not running routes in anything other than 11 personnel. So in games like this against the Chiefs, where you can project them to be playing from behind, where they might be, or maybe it's a tough run game or run defense they're facing, you can look to Christian Kirk. But that's why he put up a dud last week, because they just weren't using him outside of 11 personnel. It was the same thing this week, except they just didn't run a ton of 12. They ran a lot more 11 personnel this week. So Kirk should definitely be added, but don't chase the points here and just throw him into your lineup without looking at who might be out there.
Tyler Kyron Williams just took. No, he didn't just. He did it last week. Like he did it without any of us knowing it was coming. Right? Like it was just completely again out of nowhere. But I guess this is what we should come to expect from Sean McVay, because this is 2 years in a row we've pretty much just gotten got by the Rams, where they haven't said anything. There has been like a bunch of information coming out beforehand that, hey, something might be coming where he may not see as much opportunity. We did hear that Kyron Williams is going to be more involved, but never thought this was going to happen. And now all of a sudden he's back on the trading block. Like Rams, we tried this last year, and you said you were going to trade him, and then you didn't happen, and now here we are again. I don't know. It's just I'm never again. Not good at fantasy. Where the fuck did Puka come from? I've never heard it before last week. Well, I mean, a lot of people didn't, because he
Yeah.
was a late round pick, and normally these guys don't pan out, and they damn sure don't come out and see a 20 target game in their second game of the season, like he has. Like it's been absolutely wild to see what he's doing, and like at first you're kind of like, oh well, maybe he's just not going to. Maybe it was a 1 week wonder. We've kind of seen that before, where a player will come out week one, kind of have a big performance. Hell, there was a time that Corey Coleman, if you remember way back when, I think his first week of the year, like he had a really strong game and then just fall off. So like I didn't really know what to expect. I was kind of like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, because I'm like, I don't know how sustainable this is. But now at this point, it seems pretty fucking sustainable if he's going to continue to see this many targets like he is right now. Because I mean, at this point, until Cooper Cup comes back, but even when Cooper Cup does come back, like I think he plays that Robert Woods role in this offense. Like he's not Cooper Cup. He's not going to play that role. He's going to play the Robert Woods role, which, as we remember, was very lucrative at the time. So yeah, he's not going anywhere. Adrian, would y'all do Burrow and Rashad White for Pollard? It's an 8-man. I would receive Pollard. Yeah, I think you can do that depending on your quarterback. But 8-man league, there's probably other really strong quarterbacks out there.
Yeah.
And then there's a massive upgrade from Rashad White to Pollard. So I would do that. And then Rob, you think Olave could put up some big numbers tomorrow? Yeah. I think he could always put up big numbers. He's the number one wide receiver for this team. And actually, Derek Carr has looked so far really good at moving the football, especially downfield, has been something that he has really done a good job at. So yes, Chris Olave is going to be a high end wide receiver 2, low end wide receiver 1 every single week.
Yeah,
I
and
take
JC Horn, it will be missing for this game for the Panthers as well. I mean for the Panthers. So
You think Puka is a top 50 wide receiver? No. It's hard, right? Because like it's just like on one hand, like your brain's like, no, this can't continue. This isn't sustainable for somebody, and it's not. But at the same time, this is back-to-back games of where he's seeing a massive target share within the offense. So I don't think that he is a top 15 wide receiver going forward. I think he's probably more. And we could talk about it later, like but I will say that he very well could be the best sell high candidate we will see all year, with how well he's played and the things you possibly get for him. Because if and when Cooper Cup comes back, it is going to drastically change how these targets are distributed on this offense. So that is something I would definitely keep in mind. So he's always a player you can kind of put out there to see what other people might be willing to give you in this situation, right? For somebody like him.
yeah, he could still be like a mid wide receiver too, like you said, the Robert Woods role. Even before Robert Woods got injured, and we had Odell coming to that offense a few years ago. Robert Woods was, I think, he was in that borderline wide receiver 1 conversation. But now with Tutu Atwell being involved, they don't have that deep threat. So you would think that Atwell will continue to have some sort of role. So that, like you said, that the targets are going to be really interesting to see how that's split up. But I still think Puka could end up being like a mid to back end wide receiver too.
Yeah,
And
you're
20
right. 20
targets is
targets,
20
20 targets.
targets.
Yeah. I mean, no fucking doubt, right? And like I said with him, like the targets are earned. Like, and so it shows, they're how we know now it's not a fluke, right? Last week it was like, was this kind of a fluke
Yeah.
performance? Now it's okay, it's not a fluke performance. And he is somebody you should definitely be looking to start every single week. Now we had him ranked this week as a wide receiver too. So for a lot of people, you probably did start him, but now I think he is locked in as pretty much a starter, unless you just absolutely killed it in terms of drafting. So Jim's Saquon plus Pollard for Diggs plus JT 14 PPR. Should I do this trade if Saquon has a high ankle sprain? The problem is we don't know anything
Yeah.
about Jonathan Taylor at this point and what's going to happen with him either, right? And so like he could be out for even longer than what we think. It's possible he doesn't play this year. Those are all things that are well within the range of possibilities. So I would not do that.
Yeah, I mean, without knowing the rest of your team, Jim, in a vacuum, I'd probably want to hold on to Saquon and Pollard. Um, I mean, I guess if you're because if you have Saquon and Pollard, you probably want RB heavy to begin your draft. So maybe you do need that alpha wide receiver. But then who is now going to be your running back? Because now JT is still going to be out for the next 2 weeks and probably going to start off slow to begin with. So in a vacuum, so the roster is Herbert, Burrow, Rashad, Madison, Eckler, Kelly, Montgomery, Diggs, St. Brown. Wow, that. Oh, so you'd be getting. Okay, so you'd be getting Saquon and Pollard. I mean, having St. Brown and Olave still, I mean, your wide receiver is still going to be okay. Um, yeah, I think you could do that. I would take the Saquon and Pollard side if you're giving up Diggs and JT. I think you have the wide receiver depth to do that.
Yeah, I was worded a little bit different. Yeah, I guess I assumed it was the other way around.
Yeah, I thought it was the other way around.
Rob, what's your reaction to Jimmy or Gibbs this week? I mean,
I mean, it was disappointing to see him not be more involved after Montgomery went down because like his carries he didn't see a ton of carries after that. Like I said, Craig Reynolds came in and Craig Reynolds will continue to be involved, but he led the Lions in targets this week. Now, obviously, with Amon St. Brown missing a little bit of time, that probably played into it a little bit, but he's definitely someone that we're going to continue to be bullish on. Should continue to see his usage increase over the next couple of weeks. So if there's anyone that's down on him in your league, that's definitely worth kicking the tires.
Brandon, thoughts on Kyron? I think that he is going to be a low end RB2, is probably where I would look at him, right? He's going to be involved in the passing game. And we know Sean McVay tends to lean more towards a workhorse, where he's going to continue to see a large workhorse or workload, I should say. But I would also tip your expectations because I like this Rams offense isn't and defense isn't great. And especially the running game. Like I think he is fine as a low end RB2, but I don't think he's going to be like some I know that there was a mention here looking like a league winner. Like I don't know if he's going to be that. Obviously, compared to where you drafted him or that you were able to pick him
Right.
up and what he's going to be able to bring to the table, sure. But like I don't think he's going to have some huge ceiling where he is going to be some high end RB2 or low end RB1 rest of season. I don't think that is what he brings to the table. So is Monty injury bad? I don't think it's anything like super serious. Now that I guess Cody did mention that there was differing reports here on how serious this could be. It's going to be something we're going to have to wait for the next couple of days to really figure it out, and we should know before waivers run. You should know exactly what his status is going to be, or at least how long he could possibly miss.
Yeah, that
On
seems like
this is
no, I was just gonna say it's they're reporting a thigh bruise, but like I said, I saw some differing information on it. Dave Burkett, the beat writer, I guess I would lean toward him since he's around the team, said it could be a multi-week absence, but it's not like not season threatening or anything like that. And I went Kyron here.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, I have no faith in. I know Brian Robinson scored a couple touchdowns today, but yeah, he's nobody that I'm excited about.
Brandon, I got Jamal in flex until Kamara comes back. Will Kyron be a reliable flex pick for me after this, or will Brian Robinson be better? We kind of just answer that, right? We prefer Kyron Williams over Brian Robinson.
Yeah, I mean Robinson has clearly been the guy, but Robinson's also been really bad too. So like I don't know. I know Antonio Gibson fumbled last week, and they kind of put him into the doghouse. This week's game script, they kind of built a decent lead. I obviously they almost blew it at the end with the Hail Mary at the end to kind of almost tie that game up with that missed extra point or
And that should have
two
been
point conversion.
PI.
Yeah, So, anyways, I think if you wanted to drop Antonio Gibson at this point, yeah, I think you could. I don't know if there's anybody out there that, like I said, like if a Roshan Johnson or something like that out there, yeah, sure, I'm doing it. But at this point, it doesn't seem like they have a lot of faith in him, and they really give a shit about Antonio Gibson at this point. And so, despite the fact that that Brian Robinson doesn't look like he's actually very good, but they seem to really love that dude. So, I mean, I think he'll continue to see the work. But yes, if you had to, you could drop Antonio Gibson at this point. So, J35, I have no RB2 because of JK and JT being some of my running back. Should I trade Jamar Chase for Garrett Wilson and Kyron? Thanks. No, that's too much. You're
Oh
taking a
yeah,
loss in that.
yeah. But I do
You're
just want to
also
say
trading
really,
Jamar Chase at his lowest point, right? He had another really underwhelming day again today.
yeah,
T. Higgins actually went off, had a big day, but Jamar Chase didn't. Like, this isn't the time you should be looking to trade that. And you're probably just creating, and like Garrett Wilson, I don't love either. Now with Zach Wilson out there, like I just don't love that at all. So like I would not want that. It feels like someone's trying to pawn, definitely buy low on you on Jamar Chase.
yeah. Trying to take advantage of you, J35. Don't fall for it. I do just want to say really quickly on the Gibson Brian Robinson thing. The snaps were much closer than they were this week compared to last week. Brian Robinson only had 3 more snaps, but he had 18 carries to Gibson's 1. Gibson did run 8 more routes, but when you're getting out touched that much, like it doesn't it doesn't really matter if you're running 8 more routes.
Yeah, Brandon, what do you guys think about Swift? Like, you couldn't have asked for a worse performance or better performance, but also worse situation for Kenny Gainwell. Now, what I will say is clear here is that Rashad Penny isn't it. Like Rashad Penny, if you have him, you drafted him, you can go ahead and drop him. Like you probably could have done it last week after he was a healthy scratch, but if you were holding on hope, it is completely gone. The fact that Kenny Gainwell was missing and they still didn't really even give him really any opportunities whatsoever. Now, this is what I will say is that DeAndre Swift is not going to continue to see that type of usage that he saw last week against the Vikings. Like that is some level of usage that we typically don't see from their offense, but also just not typically something you would see for DeAndre Swift. And if they want to keep him healthy throughout the whole year, they are not going to continue to use him that much. But I will say DeAndre Swift, at least right now, looks like he's a very strong high-end RB2 right now within this offense. But Kenny Gainwell still has value. And when Kenny Gainwell comes back, I do think that they are going to be mixing in with each other and that they're both going to get opportunity here. This isn't a situation where this is like all DeAndre Swift's backfield. I will say that. I think it's more of an indictment on Rashad Penny not being the guy. And then Brandon, hey, what are your top 3 waiver picks up going week 3? Any wide receivers try to pick up? Yeah, like I already mentioned, Jaden Reed definitely should be. I think Tank Dell is right there with him, and then Tutu Atwell. If he's still sitting out there, I think all 3 of those guys make the most sense as players you can plug in right now, not just guys that you're kind of holding to see what can happen. And then the other dudes, I think. Marvin Mims is more of a long-term ad, and then Josh Reynolds, Tyler Boyd, I think are all options. Robert Woods, also guys, especially with bye weeks coming, to be able to start playing some of these guys in your flex. And then Isaiah Hodges, I didn't talk about him, but he did have 14.7 PPR points today. But I'm also not like overly excited about him just because there's so many other options there in the back in that wide receiver room.
Yeah, and then Craig Reynolds is your guy to add in the running back room, assuming that Montgomery is going to miss time, and behind that it would be Matt Breida.
Yeah. Would you start Puka over Cooper there? I'm assuming is that Amari Cooper, maybe? And right
I'm
now, Amari
assuming, yeah.
Cooper is not going to play this week either, so people are aware of that. So if you were holding out hope, then I guess I would go. I would have already have ran to the waiver wire and picked up Donovan Peoples Jones in that situation. But either way, that looks like those are all the questions. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get out of here. Went a little longer than we wanted, but we're here to answer all your guys' questions, kind of get you guys ready to go. If you haven't already, you can jump into our Discord. It's absolutely free. If you have any questions, especially for when it comes to waiver ads and stuff like that, you want to know who you should add, pick up, whatever. You can always jump in there. It's absolutely free. But that being said, we will be back in here very soon with our week 3 rankings for a quarter or for the running back and wide receiver position. So again, hope everybody has a good rest of the weekend. And again, for a lot of people, there's still 2 more games tomorrow. So hopefully you win your week this week. And if not, We will see you very soon on Wednesday for our start sit show on Wednesday nights. We go live every single sit in. So hope you get a dub this week. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.